Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 20th of November. You're tuned into our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The son of an aide to purged North Korean official Jang Song-thaek has been reported missing from his university in Paris. There's speculation he might be on the run from North Korean agents trying to forcefully repatriate him. A US-based think tank says North Korea may be preparing to restart a reprocessing facility at its main nuclear reactor. Plus, a huge snowstorm that dumped more than a metre of snow on the northeastern United States has left several people dead. We start, however, with some news just coming in. North Korea has launched an all-out protest against a UN resolution condemning its human rights violations. Citing a North Korean Foreign Ministry spokesperson, the Korean Central News Agency reports Pyongyang will strongly counter the resolution, calling it another US-led attempt to overthrow its regime. A UN committee passed a resolution Tuesday which calls on the Security Council to refer North Korea to the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. The report, the North Korean report that is, also goes on to warn that Washington's hostilities towards Pyongyang will lead to another nuclear test, and it vowed to beef up its war deterrence. And turning now to our top headline, that a North Korean student in Paris is missing after vanishing around a fortnight ago. The young man is a son of an aide to Jang Song-thaek, the man North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had executed last year. Rumours are the student might have gotten wind that North Korean agents were going to attempt to try and take him back to the communist country. Our Gwon-swa reports.
The North Korean man, who had been studying in Paris for around 3 years, has been missing for more than 2 weeks now. French authorities are taking the case very seriously, considering the male student's close family links to Jang Song-thaek, the uncle of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who was purged and swiftly executed late last year.
We don't know the whereabouts of the student. We are currently assessing how credible this case is.
There's speculation the student, only identified by his family name Han, could be on the run from North Korean agents who want to forcefully repatriate him to the north. Han had been studying at the École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture de Paris La Villette, an architecture college in the French capital, with 9 other elite students from Pyongyang's prestigious Kim Il-sung University. Given that Han is the son of a reportedly purged aide of Jang Song-thaek, there are rumors the North Korean regime is still not done with getting rid of Jang's inner circle and their associates. If the assumptions are found to be true, the case could spark a huge diplomatic row between France and North Korea, especially in the wake of the EU-drafted UN resolution that calls for the North Korean leadership to be brought before the International Criminal Court. Gwon-swa, Arirang News.
Now, latest observations indicate North Korea might be restarting its plant to reprocess nuclear fuel into weapons-grade plutonium. This is according to 38 North, a US-based research institute. On Wednesday, this came out local time. The analysis, based on commercial satellite imagery taken earlier this month, indicates the plutonium production reactor at the North's Yongbyon nuclear facility appears to have been shut down for 10 weeks. And the Institute's best guess as to why it was shut down for longer than it needs to be is that the North is replacing spent fuel rods and is preparing to reprocess them. The analysis added there was steam coming from a cooling tower that is consistent with maintenance, testing and other activities that take place before operations commence. Russian President Vladimir Putin, fresh from a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy, has been hailing the benefits of maintaining a close relationship with North Korea. A media outlet in Russia reports that following his meeting with Choi Ryong-hae, who is midway through his roughly week-long trip to Russia, Putin said deepening political as well as economic cooperation with the North will contribute to regional security and stability in both countries. Choi Ryong-hae and the rest of his delegation are scheduled to meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on this Thursday for more talks. But just as the hour-long talks between Che and Putin earlier this week, they will be held behind closed doors. Now, despite lingering tensions on the Korean peninsula, South Korea says dialogue with North Korea remains on the table and possible. Unification Ministry spokesperson Im Byung-chul says Seoul is still waiting to hold high-level talks if Pyongyang drops its unjustifiable demands and shows some sincerity. He added the North can raise a range of pending issues at the meeting if it wants, including the resumption of talks to North Korea's Mount Kumgang. A second round of high-level talks was scheduled, in fact, for earlier this month, but it was scrapped after the North took issue with the flying of anti-Pyongyang leaflets by South Korean activists. As part of its ongoing annual defense drill, the South Korean military has been conducting a large-scale landing exercise off the country's southeastern coast, and military officers say the drills work to both boost combat readiness and also deter enemy provocations, including threats posed by North Korea. Our Kim Hyun-bin has this report.
At the break of dawn, orders are given and amphibious assault landing vehicles infiltrate enemy territory. Marines hop off the tanks, secure a perimeter, and soon after, neutralize enemy firepower. Air-cushioned vehicles and transport crafts storm in with supplies and heavy arms, while the Korean-made K-1 tank provides fire support. This joint amphibious landing exercise is part of the annual Hoguk exercise, which began in 1996. This year's drill is the largest ever.
Our Navy and Marines get realistic training through this exercise for operations that play a decisive role during war.
The orders are given out 20 miles away from the Asia's largest transport ship, the Tokdo LPX. It is used as a command center, coordinating operations and giving orders to the people manning attack helicopters and armored vehicles. Over 1,400 Marines, 20 vessels, and other amphibious vehicles were involved in this year's exercise. Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Hwang Gi-chul, emphasized the importance of the drill during a visit to the command center.
Our military's core value dictates we conduct a powerful drill. Through that, we will be able to prevent enemy provocations and come out victorious.
This year's six-day exercise is aimed at enhancing the Korean military's amphibious landing capabilities and runs through Thursday. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
Now, a former Japanese leader has blamed sitting Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for Tokyo's strained ties with South Korea and China. Speaking at a forum held in Korea's southern port city of Busan, Yukio Hatoyama said Abe's visit to the Yasukuni Shrine last December clearly angered Seoul and Beijing. Now, this highly controversial shrine honors some 14 Class A war criminals, as well as hundreds of thousands of Japan's war dead. Hatoyama says any mention of the 14 should be removed before any sitting prime minister pays their respects at the shrine. He also said Japan should stand by the 1993 Kono statement in which the Japanese government apologized for its sexual enslavement of tens of thousands of Asian women, including a great deal of Korean women as well, before and during World War II. Well, we're only into the third week of November, but the United States has already been pounded with an epic amount of snow, a deadly amount of snow already. For a look at this and other global headlines we're following on this Thursday morning here in Seoul, we turn to Eunice Kim, as always, at the News Centre. Very good morning to you, Eunice.
Hello, Mark.
So we all knew that the country was bracing for this super snowstorm, but no one saw the level of this snow coming.
Right, life has stood still for many Americans. The cold blast has brought snow in roughly half of the vast country as all states felt freezing temperatures. That's including Florida and Hawaii. But the brunt of this early winter storm sweeping through the Great Lakes was felt in regions near Buffalo of New York State, where it's seeing record-smashing snowfall, falling at a rate of up to 13 centimeters per hour. The white stuff buried homes and vehicles and likely killed at least 7 people, 5 in western New York, 3 after shoveling snow, apparently from a heart attack, and 1 found dead inside a car buried in 4.5 meters of snow. At Interstate 90, a highway that connects east and west New York State, National Guard troops were dispatched to rescue motorists trapped in more than 100 vehicles. And it is not over yet. Buffalo is bracing itself for up to 1 more meter of snow. Paris has confirmed that a second Frenchman was among the executioners in the latest propaganda video released by the Islamic State group. Its prosecutor's office named the man as 22-year-old Michael dos Santos from an eastern Paris suburb. The earlier named French militant, you'll remember, was Maxime Houchard from Normandy, also 22 years old. According to Le Monde, more than 1,100 French nationals are believed to be engaged in the jihadist fight in Syria and Iraq, with nearly 400 on the front lines. Police have arrested a religious leader in India, concluding a tense week-long standoff that had been covered live by local news channels for days. Former junior engineer Baba Rampa Maharaj turned God-man had blockaded himself and 15,000 followers in a heavily fortified ashram, exchanging fire with police that hurt hundreds in the days-long operation. The 63-year-old is wanted for a 2006 murder case and for contempt of court. He and his followers are also accused of holding people hostage in the sprawling ashram and using women and children as human shields. And police have recovered the bodies of Honduran beauty queen 19-year-old Maria Jose Alvarado and her 23-year-old sister. 2 men were arrested in connection to their disappearance, one who was described as the boyfriend of the sister. He reportedly confessed to shooting and killing the 2 young women and led authorities to their burial site, a shallow grave in a field by a river. Police said they also had the murder weapon and the vehicle used prior to the murders. Maria Alvarado had been crowned the year's Miss Honduras World in April and was to board a plane to London soon to compete in the Miss World pageant.
Said that a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. Back to news here in Korea now, and 2 new government agencies related to public safety and anti-corruption were officially launched on Wednesday. The latest changes come in the wake of April's Sewol-ho ferry sinking, which was handled poorly across the board and exposed some extremely deep-rooted corruption within Korea's public and private sectors. Our Ji Myung-gil reports.
Prime Minister Chung Hong-won calls them the 2 cornerstones in responding to future disasters and leading public sector reforms in Korea. At the inauguration ceremony of the Safety Ministry and agency in charge of government personnel matters, the Prime Minister said an integrated disaster response system was needed to guarantee the people's safety, and he called for agencies to quickly adapt to the new command structure. Taking lessons from April's Sewol-ho ferry disaster, the Ministry of Public Safety and Security, with a staff of 10,000 people, will act as the government's control tower for safeguarding the Korean population. The Korea Coast Guard and the National Emergency Management Agency have been placed under its watch as 2 sub-level agencies. Former Navy Admiral Park In-young was tapped to lead the new safety ministry and awaits a confirmation hearing at the National Assembly, which is scheduled for early next month. The overhaul also sets up a new agency that will be in charge of managing government personnel. In addition to handling the human resources of civil servants, it is tasked with leading reforms in Korea's bureaucratic structure. Lee Geum-myeon, a former Samsung Electronics official who specialized in the field of personnel management for decades, was nominated to lead the agency. The formation of the new bodies comes nearly 200 days after President Park Geun-hye promised government restructuring as a follow-up measure to April's Seoul ferry disaster, which left more than 300 people dead or missing. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
There's been a huge backlash from the farming community here in the nation after Korea's recently agreed free trade agreement with China. They are worried that the country is going to be flooded with cheap imports from across the West Sea. In an effort to cool heads, President Park Geun-hye has vowed to minimize damage to the sector and try and modernize the local agricultural industry. Our Shin Se-min reports.
Minimizing the damage to Korea's agricultural sector for the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement is what President Park Geun-hye is promising to the nation's farmers. At an open discussion Wednesday in the city of Ansong, south of Seoul, President Park said the agriculture sector is one of Korea's key industries and that her government would be in close consultations with those involved to make sure their concerns are being heard.
이처럼 개방에 대한 방어적인 대책도 중요하지만 더욱 중요한 것은 우리 앞에 놓인 도전과 변화를 기회로 만들 수 있는 창조적 해법과 할 수 있다는 자신감입니다. 저는 지금 이 순간이 우리 농업과 농촌을 한 단계 더 도약시키느냐 아니면 추락하느냐를 결정짓는 골든 타임이라고 생각합니다.
The president also spoke about ways to revitalize the sector through the integration of information technology. She said the creation of smart farms where farming environments can be monitored in a more efficient manner using biotechnology would be a boon for the sector. While emphasizing the benefits of greater access to the Chinese market, especially for homegrown produce, the president said Korea should continuously utilize free trade deals with its neighboring Asian countries. President Park's promise follows a series of protests and rallies staged by local farmers against the Korea-China FTA, which will remove tariffs on more than 90% of all products traded between the two countries some 20 years after it goes into full effect. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The global tablet PC market, which has really rather underwhelmed a great many people this year, is expected to bounce back to double-digit sales growth next year. This according to US-based market tracker Strategy Analytics, which estimates this year's global tablet sales will grow just 9% from last year to 247 million units. However, it does estimate the market is forecast to surge by 18% next year, with the appearance of low-priced tablets with larger screens. In the third quarter this year, Apple and Korea's Samsung Electronics actually saw their market share slip slightly. A low-priced Chinese-made tablet called White Box came out on top, taking a staggering 30% of the global share. Now, the next time you're at the supermarket buying either hand wash or shampoo, you might want to check out what exactly is in it. American researchers say that if it contains a particular type of antibacterial agent, you should steer well clear. They say the chemical could damage your liver and may even cause cancer. Our Lee Ji-eun has more.
Should you be worried if you just washed your hands with liquid soap? Maybe. Researchers from the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine recently discovered that a common ingredient in many liquid hand soaps, shampoos, and even toothpastes can trigger liver cancer. The ingredient researchers are worried about is called triclosan. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, triclosan is classified as an antibacterial agent added to products to reduce or prevent bacterial contamination. Then how does something that is supposed to keep us healthy end up having the opposite effect? Researchers found that mice exposed to the chemical for 6 months, equivalent to about 18 human years, became more susceptible to liver tumors than mice not exposed to it. Others say triclosan becomes even more harmful when combined with other compounds.
When triclosan is exposed to sunlight in the water system, it's converted to dioxins, which are carcinogens.
The FDA says it doesn't have enough evidence to recommend an end to the use of triclosan in consumer products. The U.S. state of Minnesota, however, is currently looking into legislation that would ban products containing triclosan in the state. 이준, 아리랑 뉴스.
And a good Thursday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2014-2015 ISU Speed Skating World Cup, where the second stage of the event will take place at the Taenong International Ice Rink starting on Friday. But on Wednesday, the media day took place. And taking part in the press conference were Olympic speed skaters Lee Sang-hwa and Lee Seung-hoon, as well as the recently converted Park Seung-hee and a middle school speed skater in Kim Min-seok. Now, they all expressed their excitement with Korea hosting their first international competition in 10 years. Meanwhile, Lee Sang-hwa talked about her passing up on a knee surgery, adding that she's not 100%, while Lee Seung-hoon announced that he will also compete in the 1500-meter competition as well. And now moving over to the LPGA, where golf fans are getting excited over the final event of the season with the CME Group Tour Championship taking place from the 20th to the 23rd. And with the final event of the season comes the final showdown between Park In-bi and Stacey Lewis for the Player of the Year honors. Now, with Park In-bi finishing in third place this past weekend at the Lorena Ochoa Invitational and Stacey Lewis finishing tied for 28th, the 2013 LPGA Player of the Year Park In-bi trails Lewis by just 3 points in the race for the top prize. If Park finishes lower than 8th place, Lewis automatically wins the 2014 Player of the Year honors, while winning the tournament will obviously mean a back-to-back year for Park In-bi. And now moving over to some Wednesday night's KBL action, the Wonju Dongmu Promi beat the Changwon LG Sakers 74-67, while the two bottom dwellers in the league, Anyang KGC and Seoul Samsung Thunders, faced off. So let's take a look at the highlights. Now, KGC off to a great start, outscores Samsung's 27-15, but Samsung rallies in the second quarter to cut the deficit to 44-37 going into halftime. Now, Samsung's Leo Lyons tears it up with a game-high 34 points, but he's the only double-digit scorer in the game, while KGC spreads the ball around with 3 players scoring in double digits as KGC hangs on to win this game 85-74. And now finishing things off with some domestic volleyball action in the V-League, starting off in the Women's League, where the first-place IBK Altos took on the third-place Hyundai Hill State. Of course, going into the game here now, just like everyone expected, a roller coaster of a match here with Hyundai Hill State taking the first set 25-15 before IBK comes back to take the next 2 sets, including a 25-8 third set win. Now, Hyundai Hill State bounces back to force a decisive fifth set where Polina Raminova's 39 points helped Hyundai Hill State take the final set 15-12 for a 3-2 upset victory. Meanwhile, over on the men's league, Hyundai Capital Skywalkers taking on Kepco Vicstorm now looked to be a rather evenly matched game, but the duo of Mitar Juric and Chung Kwang-in for Kepco. Too much for the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers, who lost Liberman Aldamez due to an injury, as Kepco sweeps through 3-0. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, pleasant late autumn day is in store today with afternoon temperatures rising above seasonal averages. And mostly to partly sunny skies are in store, but dryness continues as the dry weather advisory is still in place for some parts of the east. So please keep that in mind, and let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now, the daily high in Seoul and Daegu will rise to 13 and 16, while Gwangju and Busan will peak at 14 and 17. 14. And as for the other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will hike up to 15 and 14 respectively, while Dokdo should see a high of 13 this afternoon. Now, light rainfall is expected from tomorrow evening here in the capital, which could linger till Saturday morning, but the precipitation will be less than 5 millimeters, so it should be no problem on any outdoor activities. And temperature-wise, it will remain on the mild side. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. Have a fabulous day, and we'll be back at noon Korea time with our next newscast. Until then, goodbye.